watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet is back from his first official visit to China, where he met with the country's most powerful men to strengthen ties between the two countries towards what they say is a shared common destiny. From September 14th through 16th, Prime Minister Hun Manet met with the chairman of China's largest business investors to the kingdom, in addition to its heads of state, including President Xi Jinping, Prime Minister Li Qiang, and congressional speaker Zhao Leji. A joint press release from the Chinese and Cambodian governments detailed the main talking points of both sides and included issues like economic synergy, developing Cambodian infrastructure, and rejecting, quote, outside interference on internal affairs for both countries, reinforcing the One China policy. Their discussions on trade focused on the fish and rice corridor, which promised that modern agricultural demonstration zones will be established in Cambodia, and exchanges in digital agriculture will be carried out. There will be a particular focus on fish, rice, tropical fruits, vegetables, and agricultural inputs such as fertilizer, pesticides, and animal feed. A priority for exporting Cambodian agriculture is on food safety and negotiations on quarantine protocols for food shipped to China. In terms of development, both sides agreed to continue investing in Sihanoukville as a model of special economic zones throughout the country, especially in the fields of agro-industries, transportation infrastructure, electricity, energy, and manufacturing. China agreed to support railroad development in Cambodia, while also helping to conduct studies on advancing roads, sewage treatment, and electricity and power grids. In return, Cambodia reinforced its loyalty to the One China policy, which recognizes Taiwan as an inalienable part of Chinese territory. The Cambodian government said it opposes any form of separatist activities seeking Taiwan independence, and promised not to develop any form of official relations with Taiwan. Attempts to oppose the One China policy were categorized as, quote, interference in other countries' internal affairs, which is a strict tenet of ASEAN countries. Recent controversy in the South China Sea was also discussed, and both parties concluded that the situation has maintained overall stability, despite rising tensions in the area as China occupies disputed waters. The joint statement warned that any attempt to use the South China Sea issue to undermine peace, stability, and trust should be avoided. That said, both sides agreed to safeguard the international system with the principles of the UN Charter at its core. The Cambodian and Chinese leaders also discussed boosting tourism and cultural exchanges, particularly in youth programs. In the end, both sides signed several cooperation documents towards building a bilateral future in what they call the new era through economic policies and a shared vision of stability, friendship, and cooperation. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. National Assembly President Khun Sotdari met with Turkish Ambassador to Cambodia, Ulka Kokafe, as a gesture of women's empowerment within their respective governments. The two delegates committed to help each other strengthen the roles of women within their respective regional and national administrations.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
Following today's meeting, National Assembly spokesperson Kao Piset said that the women discussed strengthening ties and cooperation towards goals shared between Cambodia and Turkey. Both sides agreed that developing vocational education and digital education programs was key in providing women with more opportunities to elevate their careers.
ការផ្ដល់អំណាចដល់ស្ត្រីហ្នឹងគឺចាប់ផ្ដើមពីការលើកកម្ពស់សមត្ថភាពរបស់មន្ត្រីដែលជាស្ត្រីនៅអគ្គលេខាធិការឋាននៃរដ្ឋសភាក៏ដូចជាអ្នកតំណាងរាស្ត្រហើយបន្ទាប់មកទៀតគឺជាផ្ដល់ទៅកម្មវិធីផ្សេងៗសម្រាប់ការលើកកម្ពស់ការចូលរួមរបស់ស្ត្រីការផ្ដល់អំណាចដល់ស្ត្រីតាំងពីថ្នាក់ជាតិដល់ថ្នាក់ឃុំដល់មូលដ្ឋានតែម្ដងទាំងពីការអប់រំការផ្ដល់ជាជំនាញកម្មវិធី digital ផ្សេងៗផងដែរ
The Turkish ambassador said women are an integral part of society and informed the National Assembly about the rapid development of cooperation between the two countries recently, noting that the trade volume between Cambodia and Turkey has increased significantly. She also emphasized the importance of cultural exchange, to which end Turkey has opened a Turkish language training school in Cambodia, where about 60 young Cambodians are currently studying the language. Cambodia and Turkey have enjoyed diplomatic relations since 1959. In recent years, their cooperation was strengthened, expanded, and promoted under the leadership of former Prime Minister Hun Sen and his Turkish counterpart, President Erdogan. Cambodia considers Turkey a valuable partner as it connects Asia to Europe. Kristen Winters, EAC News. Watching EAC News, thank you for joining us. The Ministry of Health reminded the public to be vigilant and responsible in protecting their personal and family health by helping to prevent the spread of dengue fever at home and on a large-scale community basis. On Tuesday, the ministry released a statement noting a significant increase in dengue cases, saying that the viral infection has a 5 to 6 year cycle during which cases peak. Dengue fever can occur in people of all ages and is caused by the dengue virus, transmitted by the bite of a tiger mosquito that lays eggs in water. The ministry warned people to be aware of anything that can collect still water, from jars, flower pots, and bowls at home to tires and cans that are stored or disposed of in open fields, leaving a breeding ground for mosquitoes. The Ministry of Health advised anyone with a high fever of 39 to 40 degrees Celsius to seek consultation and treatment at the hospital as soon as possible and to contact the emergency number 115 for any further questions. It recommended that exposed vessels for liquids be washed once a week or well covered to prevent rainfall from collecting. It also advised working with local health officials to put pesticides in large pools of water where mosquito eggs can be laid. It said that citizens must incinerate or keep dry unused materials like tires, coconut shells, bowls, and cans to prevent the spread of dengue fever. The ministry instructed residents and local authorities to join the movement to reduce and prevent the growth of mosquitoes, with a slogan that encourages model families to maintain a home free of mosquito breeding grounds. It said that people must adhere to clean living habits and proper storage to prevent a community outbreak. It said that houses should be kept full of light when possible to deter mosquitoes, and that clothes should be inspected before worn, as the insects gather in wardrobes for their cool, dark environment. It suggested that people wear long-sleeve clothing, sleep under a mosquito net regularly day and night, and to avoid quiet, shady areas where the insects like to gather. Kristen Winters, EAC News. Watching EAC News, thank you for joining us. The French government and the French Agency for Development expressed their commitment to continue cooperation with the Ministry of Labor and Vocational Training in the areas of education, technical and vocational training, also known as TVET, in addition to social security programs in line with the recommendations of Prime Minister Hun Manet. On Wednesday, Minister of Labor and Vocational Training, Heng Sua, met with Jacques Pellet, France's ambassador to Cambodia, and Sandrine Boucher, the AFD country director for Cambodia. The French ambassador congratulated Heng Sua on his appointment as the new Minister of Labor and Vocational Training. He also praised the progress of Cambodia, which has been rapidly developing since he first arrived in Cambodia in 1995. The ambassador emphasized that the French government, through AFD, remains committed to supporting Cambodia's development via cooperation with other ministries and institutions. In terms of the Ministry of Labor, the French are prepared to help further Cambodia's progress in TVET and build a social security system. They promoted TVET projects for competition and skills for the future economy, saying that the technical aspects of the projects are mapped out and that there are plans to sign an agreement in the near future. They also discussed a pilot program, which will provide health insurance to garment factory workers in Cambodia. The AFD says it will provide 2023 financial assistance, in addition to UN Population Fund experts and personnel to help achieve their goals. Boucher added that AFD aims to modernize the project to include the development and management of human resources and the development of an information and communications technology, or ICT, system. Minister Heng Sua thanked the French ambassador and the AFD director for their input on cooperative development projects. He then emphasized that the projects were in line with the first phase of the new administration's Pentagon strategy. The minister thanked the French side for its cooperation and support in the initiatives and pledged to continue to strengthen cooperation with the French government and the AFD projects to achieve maximum results. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Former Prime Minister Hun Sen took to social media to praise his son's performance as Cambodia's new prime minister, less than 1 month into his new position. In a Telegram post yesterday, Hun Sen said that he thought it would take longer for Prime Minister Hun Manet to settle into his new role, but that his son has exceeded his expectations by proving his mettle at home and abroad. He said, quote, Not to praise my own son, but having served as Prime Minister for more than 38 years, I can say that Prime Minister Hun Manet has done better than I expected. I thought it would take about 3 months for the new Prime Minister to take full control of the work, end quote. He said that contrary to his initial beliefs, Prime Minister Hun Manet traveled with confidence to discuss foreign affairs at the ASEAN summit within his first 2 weeks as Prime Minister. He also proudly remarked on his son's first official visit to China today and the upcoming UN General Assembly next week. He said, quote, "The child of the Dragon King will definitely not become the child of the frog," end quote. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Before departing for China this morning, Prime Minister Hun Manet decided to relax the requirements for informal businesses to register for business licenses in accordance with his administration's policy of supporting the informal economy. Last night, the Prime Minister wrote on his social media that assisting workers in the informal economy is a main priority of his new administration. In 2022, the International Labor Organization estimated that as many as 93% of those employed in Cambodia are part of the informal economy. For comparison, the informal economy represents only 18% of Japan's total employment, making Cambodia one of 5 countries in Southeast Asia for whom the informal economy is the backbone of the economy. Pursuant to yesterday's decision, the Prime Minister has ordered the suspension of some administrative requirements in businesses related to visual arts, salons, sports equipment vendors, local restaurants, motorbike rentals, tuk-tuk tourism, handicrafts, small battery installations, motorcycle repair, car rental, car and bike wash, and wholesale agricultural equipment. He stressed that his administration is committed to improving the informal economy as outlined in the National Strategy for Informal Development 2023 through 2028, which will provide social security benefits, foster growth and raise awareness for entrepreneurs and established workers in the informal economy. Kristen Winters, EAC News. Watching EAC News, thank you for joining us. While attending the ASEAN summit in Jakarta last week, Prime Minister Hun Manet received an invitation from Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang to pay an official visit to China, which he graciously accepted. The Prime Minister departed from the Phnom Penh airport this morning, along with deputy prime ministers, ministers, and private business owners, to meet with Chinese leaders and business people. Accompanying the Prime Minister on his plane to China are Minister of Foreign Affairs Sokchinda Sopia, Deputy Prime Minister Sun Chantal, who served various roles under his father's leadership, and one of the richest people in Cambodia, Kit Meng, who is CEO of the Royal Group and President of the Chamber of Commerce. Prime Minister Hun Manet will lead a delegation to China from September 14th through 16th to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, China's Congressional Chairman Zhao Liqi, and Chinese PM Li Qiang. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that the leaders will exchange views on a number of topics, including building a common destiny of Cambodia and China in the new era by further promoting their diamond cooperation, strategic direction for Cambodia-China relations, and regional and international events pertaining to common interests. Prime Minister Hun Manet will hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Li Qiang on cooperation between the two countries, and the two prime ministers will also preside over the signing ceremony of a number of cooperation documents. After the official state visit, Prime Minister Hun Manet will attend the 20th ASEAN-China Expo on September 16th through 17th in Nanning. As Cambodia and China celebrate the 65th anniversary of diplomatic relations and the Year of Friendship, the upcoming visit will further strengthen the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Former Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen wants Japanese businesses to invest in factories to process existing raw materials and in advanced technologies such as car assembly, electronics, and energy. Hun Sen met with the president of the Japan-Cambodia Association and former Japanese ambassador to Cambodia, Fumiaki Takahashi, to discuss business and the upcoming celebration of the 70th anniversary of Japan-Cambodia diplomatic relations in November. Takahashi told Hun Sen that he is ready to invite Japanese investors, especially small and medium enterprises, to invest in key sectors in Cambodia after having discussed the matter with Prime Minister Hun Manet. Hun Sen was happy to hear that and suggested the ambassador push for investment in two main areas: factories to process raw materials, and factories to produce advanced technologies such as car assembly, electronics, and energy. He also mentioned the importance of building food security in the Mekong region by supplying production chains and establishing the Association of Rice Exporters to maintain price stability and unanimity in market supply. The former prime minister said he highly values the good diplomatic relationship between Cambodia and Japan and referenced a bamboo bridge that connects them. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. The Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts issued a press release on the return of 33 ancient Khmer statues from the collection of late oil and gas tycoon George Lindemann in the United States. The statues are Cambodia's latest contribution to a worldwide conversation about the legitimacy of artifacts in public and private collections that many countries are demanding be returned to their rightful owners. The returned statues include a reclining Vishnu and a half-male, half-female iteration of the Hindu god Shiva, believed to be from Prasak Krachap Temple at the ancient royal city of Koki. According to several witnesses, these statues were illegally removed in the 1990s. This is the same temple where the Shiva and Skanda on the peacock statues came from, which were returned from the collection of the late disgraced art smuggler Douglas Latchford earlier this year. In fact, a review of files on Latchford's computer showed correspondence between him and Lindemann, including photos of them meeting in Cambodia in the 1990s. A statement from the Department of Culture and Fine Arts thanked the combined efforts of the New York City District Attorney's Office and the Homeland Security Bureau, who reached an agreement with the Lindemann family members that inherited George's stolen artifacts. Minister of Culture and Fine Arts, Bong Sakona, said that the Cambodian government was pleased at the Lindemann family's decision to return the wrongfully possessed items to their rightful owners. She emphasized that the return set a good example for museums and other private collectors that are holding on to Cambodia's cultural heritage, even after being notified of their dubious origins. The Cambodian government has requested New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art to return at least 45 Khmer relics from its collection. However, the museum is demanding proof that the items were looted, a tall order for a country whose genocidal period is largely undocumented. At least 4 of the museum's Khmer items were in fact donated by the Lindemanns in the 1990s. The Minister of Fine Arts is thrilled that these masterpieces have been returned after more than 3 years of cooperation between the two governments. A memorandum of understanding was renewed just last month to facilitate the return of Cambodia's cultural heritage from private and public institutions in the United States. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. This November, between 45 to 55 women will compete for the coveted title of Miss Planet International at Phnom Penh's Kopik Theater. Contestants from Asia Pacific, Europe, Latin America, and Africa will compete for a cash prize of $100,000 and the opportunity to spread the message of unity, sustainability, and ending poverty on a worldwide tour. On Saturday, Miss Planet International held a press conference to announce the details of their 3rd annual pageant this November. The organization's president, Hali Amin, noted that the focus on protecting the environment, reducing poverty, and restoring justice sets the pageant apart from others.
We are the only beauty pageant who follow the United Nations Platform Sustainable Development Goal.
The festivities are to run from November 10th through 20th in the Kingdom of Cambodia and will include a golf tournament and swimsuit competition at the Courtyard Marriott in Siem Reap on November 16th. The pageant final will take place on November 19th in Phnom Penh, where contestants will be judged in 5 categories.
We have 5 main categories. First is beauty, second is manner, and third is attitude, and the education, and what they do, like to, let's say, the charity or any related to environment, because we are strongly focused on the environment.
Miss Planet International has established itself as a platform that not only showcases the elegance and grace of its contestants, but also places a strong emphasis on environmental advocacy and sustainability. As the event continues to grow in global prominence, the third edition promises to be a spectacular showcase of diverse talents, unique cultures, and a united commitment to safeguarding our planet. More information on the pageant, including tickets, can be found on the Miss Planet International Facebook page. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Police arrested a man yesterday on charges of intentional violence after video showed him firing a slingshot multiple times at a young girl on a scooter, ultimately causing injury to her face. According to Sarak Cha police, the suspect, Gwen Yang Yi, was arrested at his house in Phnom Penh's Down Pen district, where authorities confiscated the weapon. They say the incident occurred just before 6:30 p.m. on September 11th, when the victim was riding a push scooter in front of the suspect's home. The man, seated in his house, aimed at the girl with his slingshot multiple times before finally hitting her in the face just below her left eye. In the video, the girl can be seen reacting immediately by covering her face and crying out. Her father then tried to find out who had shot at her, but no one came forward. The following day, the father of the victim asked his neighbors for security footage and was able to see the old man firing a slingshot from his house. The father then called the police, who arrested the man shortly after noon and brought him in for questioning. No motive has been given for the attack, while the police prepare a case to take the suspect to court. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Japanese ambassador to Cambodia, Ueno Atsushi, is meeting with members of the former and new administrations this week to maintain cooperative ties as the Cambodian government transitions into the hands of the next generation. Today, the Japanese ambassador met with new National Assembly President Khuon Sodari, where the two diplomats pledged to strengthen diplomacy and cooperation between their countries, especially in matters of trade, human resource development, and person-to-person exchanges. The National Assembly stressed that Cambodia and Japan have a long history of friendly relations, and that this year marks the 70th anniversary of their diplomatic ties under various kings, prime ministers, and even emperors. Khuon Sotari said that the Cambodian Congress is proud to be a friend of Japan, and that the country is grateful for Japan's investment in the banking, technology, electronic, and auto sectors that have created jobs and helped to reduce poverty by boosting economic growth. The Japanese ambassador graciously accepted the praise and promised to continue lobbying for his country's investment in Cambodia, particularly in terms of increasing the volume of trade between the two countries and encouraging tourism. He pledged a continuation of scholarships to Cambodian students and civil servants, and to provide skills training to Cambodian workers in Japan. He also promised to provide human resource development, especially for young members of parliament and the National Assembly civil servants, as the Cambodian government welcomes hundreds of fresh faces to its ranks. Khuon Sotari emphasized the important role Japan has played in establishing Cambodia's peace and development, and said that the Cambodian people will never forget their contribution. Kristen Winters, EAC News. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Japanese ambassador to Cambodia, Ueno Atsushi, met with former Prime Minister Hun Sen to praise the peaceful transfer of power and to reaffirm his commitment to working with the new administration. In yesterday's meeting, the Japanese ambassador admired the royal government's view that war cannot end war and praised its policy of using dialogue as a foundation for peace. He went on to praise the cooperation and comprehensive strategic partnership between Cambodia and Japan, adding that Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida was determined to continue with close cooperation with Prime Minister Hun Manet and his new administration. Hun Sen lauded the friendships between him and the current and previous leaders of Japan that he collaborated with for over 38 years as Prime Minister of Cambodia, including former Prime Ministers Shinzo Abe and Noboru Takeshita. He added that Japan greatly contributed to Cambodia's current achievements of peace and development. In the over 70 years of diplomatic ties between the two countries, Japan has made major contributions in restoring Cambodian infrastructure, upgrading 5G and 4G networking, and expanding its seaport capacity. During the meeting, the Japanese ambassador also announced plans to inaugurate a Toyota assembly plant in the kingdom in 2024. Kristen Winters, EAC News.
លឹងបរៈឬឈូកូគីត្រូវបានគេស្គាល់ក្នុងសម័យខ្មែរបុរាណថាជារាជធានីមួយដ៏សំខាន់នៅសតវត្សទី10នៃគ្រិស្តសករាជនៃអាណាចក្រខ្មែរក្នុងសម័យអង្គរពីសតវត្សទី9ដល់សតវត្សទី15នៃគ្រិស្តសករាជដែលស្ថិតនៅចម្ងាយប្រមាណ90គីឡូម៉ែត្រភាគឦសាននៃរាជធានីអង្គរតាមបណ្ដោយផ្លូវបុរាណដែលភ្ជាប់ពីអង្គរទៅកោះកេររហូតដល់វត្តភូភាគខាងត្បូងប្រទេសឡាវលឹងបរៈជាភាសាសំស្ក្រឹតប្រែថាបរិយលឹងចំណែកឯឈូកូគីជាភាសាខ្មែរប្រែថាស្រះកូគីដែលសពថ្ងៃហៅคล้ายទៅជាកោះកេររាជធានីនេះបានសាងសង់ឡើងក្នុងរាជព្រះបាទជ័យវរ្ម័នទី4ពីឆ្នាំ921នៃគ្រិស្តសករាជហើយព្រះអង្គបានឡើងគ្រងរាជ្យជាផ្លូវការពីឆ្នាំ928រហូតដល់ឆ្នាំ941នៃគ្រិស្តសករាជបន្ទាប់មកព្រះរាជបុត្រព្រះអង្គគឺព្រះបាទហសវរ្ម័នទី2បានឡើងគ្រងរាជ្យរយៈពេលខ្លីរហូតដល់ឆ្នាំ944នៃគ្រិស្តសករាជកោះកេរជារមណីយដ្ឋានឡោមព័ទ្ធដោយព្រៃដ៏ក្រាស់ដែលបន្សល់ទុកនៅសំណល់បុរាណវិទ្យាចំនួន169រួមមានប្រាសាទចំនួន76ហេដ្ឋារចនាសម្ព័ន្ធស៊ីវិលស្រះកសិនទឹកនិងផ្លូវបុរាណរមណីយដ្ឋានបុរាណវិទ្យាកោះកេរត្រូវបានរៀបចំឡើងតាមប្រព័ន្ធខ្សែបន្ទាត់យ៉ាងល្អជុំវិញប្រាសាទធំនិងរហ័លដែលជាអាងស្តុកទឹកដ៏ធំកសាងដោយបុព្វបុរសសម័យនោះនៅខាងជើងខ្សែបន្ទាត់កណ្ដាលនៃរាជធានីគឺប្រាសាទធំដែលមានប្រាសាទប្រាង្គរាងពីរ៉ាមីតកម្ពស់35ម៉ែត្រដែលមានតែមួយគត់ក្នុងភូមិភាគអាស៊ីអាគ្នេយ៍ឧទ្ទិសដល់ព្រះឥសូរនៅផ្នែកអាគ្នេយ៍មានប្រាសាទបន្ទាយ2ជាន់ឧទ្ទិសដល់ព្រះព្រហ្មនិងប្រាសាទចិននៅទិសនិរតីឧទ្ទិសដល់ព្រះនារាយណ៍ទិដ្ឋភាពទាំងនេះបញ្ជាក់ពីការទទួលឥទ្ធិពលទស្សនៈសាសនាហិណ្ឌូទ្រីមូតិព្រះបាទជ័យវរ្ម័នទី4បានយកទស្សនៈវាស្តុសាស្ត្រានៃសាសនាហិណ្ឌូដើម្បីរៀបចំទីក្រុងរបស់ព្រះអង្គឲ្យក្លាយជាទីក្រុងពិសិដ្ឋលើផែនដីហើយបានបង្កើតរចនាបថសំណង់សិល្បៈនិងសិលាចារឹកដែលមានទំហំធំព្រមទាំងចម្លាក់ដែលមានចលនារស់រវើកពោលគឺអ្វីៗមានទំហំធំនិងមានចលនាជាងសិល្បៈកន្លងមកក្នុងប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រខ្មែរនេះគឺជាឧទាហរណ៍ចម្លាក់ដ៏ល្អអស្ចារ្យនៅតាមប្រាសាទទាំងឡាយដូចជាព្រះឥសូររំកម្ពស់ប្រមាណ6ម៉ែត្រនៅប្រាសាទក្រហមនិងការរកឃើញថ្មីនៅប្រាសាទចិនគឺចម្លាក់ដែលដកស្រង់ចេញពីរឿងមហាភារតៈត្រង់ឈុតប្រយុទ្ធគ្នារវាងទុរយោធនិងភីមព្រមទាំងចម្លាក់ដកស្រង់ចេញពីរឿងរាមកេរ្តិ៍ត្រង់ឈុតប្រយុទ្ធគ្នារវាងពាលីនិងសុគ្រីពនេះជាបដិមាសាស្ត្រដែលប្លែកពីគេដែលត្រូវគេសម្គាល់ថាជារចនាបថកោះកេរ្តិ៍
ដៃសិទ្ធិរហូតមកដល់ពេលនេះគឺគេរកឃើញសាលាចរិកចំនួន73ផ្ទាំងនៅតំបន់កោះកេរនេះតាមព័ត៌មានសាលាចរិកគឺបានបញ្ជាក់ថាប្រហែលជាមានមនុស្សរស់នៅតំបន់កោះកេរនេះជាង10000នាក់សាលាចរិកក៏បានបញ្ជាក់ផងដែរថាមានការថ្វាយដង្វាយរបស់ព្រះរាជាទៅដល់ប្រាសាទជាពិសេសសាលាចរិកប្រាសាទដំរីនៅខាងក្រោយខ្នងនេះគឺបានបញ្ជាក់ពីការកសាងលឹងដ៏ធំមួយឈ្មោះត្រីភុវនេស្វរៈដើម្បីតម្កល់នៅលើប្រាសាទប្រាង្គប្រាសាទធំហ្នឹងហើយប្រាសាទប្រាង្គហ្នឹងក៏មានសាលាចរិកជាភាសាសំស្ក្រឹតដែរដែលបញ្ជាក់ថាប្រាសាទប្រាង្គហ្នឹងគឺត្រូវបានព្រះបាទជ័យវរ្ម័នទី4ហ្នឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមកសាងឡើងនៅឆ្នាំ921នៃគ្រិស្តសករាជ
លក្ខណៈពិសេសផ្សេងមួយទៀតនៃរមណីយដ្ឋានកោះកេរ្តិ៍គឺការរៀបចំបច្ចេកទេសគ្រប់គ្រងទឹកដ៏ខ្វាត់ខ្វែងរួមនឹងការសាងសង់ហេដ្ឋារចនាសម្ព័ន្ធជាច្រើនដែលបង្កើតឲ្យមានអាងទឹកដ៏ពិសិដ្ឋនៅចំកណ្ដាលរាជធានីរហ័លបានសាងសង់ឡើងដោយនាំយកទឹកពិសិដ្ឋហូរចេញពីប្រាសាទនៅជុំវិញដែលត្រូវរួមបញ្ចូលប្រាសាទទាំងឡាយទៅជាទីកន្លែងដ៏ពិសិដ្ឋក្នុងសម័យសង្គ្រាមស៊ីវិលកម្ពុជាចន្លោះទសវត្សរ៍1970ដល់1990កោះកេរ្តិ៍បានរងនៅការជីកកោះកកាយលួចយកបេតិកភណ្ឌវប្បធម៌ហើយតំបន់នេះបានក្លាយជាតំបន់ដាច់ស្រយាលដែលប្រឈមខ្ពស់នឹងការលួចយកវត្ថុបុរាណទៅលក់នៅក្រៅប្រទេសគួបផ្សំនឹងការបំផ្លិចបំផ្លាញពីអាកាសធាតុនិងការរុករានពីរុក្ខជាតិផងបានធ្វើឲ្យប្រាសាទទាំងឡាយរងការខូចខាតនិងដួលរលំជាភ័ព្វសំណាងរមណីយដ្ឋានកោះកេរ្តិ៍ត្រូវបានសង្គ្រោះនឹងការពារដោយរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលកម្ពុជាដែលមានអាជ្ញាធរជាតិព្រះវិហារកំពុងតែប្រឹងប្រែងក្នុងការអភិរក្សនូវគុណតម្លៃ និងរក្សាទ្រង់ទ្រាយដើមរបស់បូជនីយដ្ឋានប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រដ៏ល្បីល្បាញមួយនេះ
កិច្ចការប្រចាំថ្ងៃដែលកំពុងអនុវត្តនេះគឺការស្ដារឡើងវិញព្រៃឈើការអភិរក្សប្រាសាទដោយការទូលទ្រឬមួយអន្តរាគមន៍សង្គ្រោះបន្ទាន់ទីតាំងដែលមានហានិភ័យខ្ពស់ស្ថិតនៅក្នុងស្ថានភាពគ្រោះថ្នាក់អាចដួលរលំហើយបន្ថែមពីនោះទៀតជាងក៏មានយន្តការនៃការស្រាវជ្រាវក្រោមកិច្ចសហប្រតិបត្តិការរវាងស្ថាប័នជាតិនិងអន្តរជាតិ
នាពេលថ្មីកន្លងមកនេះដោយមានការប្រឹងប្រែងពីរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលកម្ពុជាសហការជាមួយសហគមន៍អន្តរជាតិនេះបានសង្គ្រោះនិងនាំយកបដិមាមួយចំនួនដែលបានលួចចេញពីកោះកេរត្រឡប់មកកាន់ប្រទេសកំណើតវិញទន្ទឹមនោះដែរយើងកំពុងប្រឹងប្រែងស្វែងរកវត្ថុបុរាណទាំងអស់ដែលស្ថិតក្នុងភាពអាចកំបាំងឲ្យត្រឡប់មកវិញបន្ថែមទៀត
ការស្វែងរកវត្ថុបុរាណមិនមែនជារឿងងាយទេចាគឺជាយន្តការមួយដ៏លំបាកប៉ុន្តែសំខាន់បំផុតដែលយើងត្រូវស្វែងរកឯកសារដែលពាក់ព័ន្ធហើយនឹងសហការជាមួយខាងក្រៅប្រទេសដើម្បីផ្ដល់ព័ត៌មានកាលណាមានព័ត៌មានយើងអាចធ្វើការចរចាពីមុនមកធ្លាប់មានការដឹងផ្ដល់អីទូទៅដែរមិនថាអត់សោះទេប៉ុន្តែនៅទីបំផុតកម្ពុជាតែបានជោគជ័យនៅក្នុងការទាមទារត្រឡប់មកវិញនៅវត្ថុបុរាណរបស់ខ្លួន
រមណីយដ្ឋានបុរាណវិទ្យាកោះកេរបានក្លាយជារាជធានីនៃអាណាចក្រខ្មែរជាង2ទសវត្សរ៍បន្ទាប់មករាជធានីបានប្តូរទៅកាន់តំបន់អង្គរវិញទោះបីជារាជធានីត្រូវផ្លាស់ប្តូរក៏ដោយប៉ុន្តែប្រជាជននៅតែបន្តរស់នៅកោះកេររហូតដល់សព្វថ្ងៃកោះកេរជារមណីយដ្ឋានបេតិកភណ្ឌរស់ដែលគ្របដណ្ដប់ផ្ទៃដី 8789.43 ហិកតា មានផ្ទះចំនួន 259 ខ្នង និងប្រជាពលរដ្ឋចំនួន 816 នាក់ កំពុងរស់នៅក្នុងតំបន់ទ្រនាប់ បច្ចុប្បន្ន អ្នកស្រុកនៅតែចាត់ទុករមណីយដ្ឋានកោះកេរជាទីតាំងដ៏ពិសិដ្ឋ និងជាទីសក្ការៈបូជា ជារៀងរាល់ឆ្នាំអ្នកភូមិនៅកោះកេរតែងតែប្រារព្ធពិធីបន់ស្រន់រំលឹកដល់ព្រលឹងនាងទុនសត្រានិងស្ដេចដំរីសនៅក្បែរភ្នូររបស់ព្រះអង្គការសាងសង់ប្រាសាទនឹងរហ័សនៅលើទីតាំងធម្មជាតិប្រកបដោយអានុភាពដ៏អស្ចារ្យនិងការបន្តប្រារព្ធពិធីសាសនាព្រមទាំងការធ្វើកសិកម្មរបស់អ្នកភូមិនៅកោះកេរនេះហើយគឺជាការបង្ហាញនូវគុណតម្លៃដ៏មានសក្តានុពលរបស់រមណីយដ្ឋានកោះកេរ រមណីយដ្ឋានកោះកេរនៅតែរក្សាទ្រង់ទ្រាយដើមដ៏ប្រសើរក្រៃលែងហើយកំពុងត្រូវបានការពារនិងអភិរក្សយ៉ាងល្អហើយយើងកំពុងប្រឹងប្រែងអភិរក្សរមណីយដ្ឋានដ៏ប្រណិតមួយនេះបន្តទៅទៀត
រមណីយដ្ឋានប្រាសាទកោះកេរមានឈ្មោះដើមថាលឹងបូរៈឬឈោកគគីគឺជាអតីតរាជធានីខ្មែរសម័យអង្គរនាសតវត្សទី10នៃគ្រិស្តសករាជជាសំណង់ស្ថាបត្យកម្មរាជធានីដ៏ពិសិដ្ឋមួយនៅលើដែនដីដើម្បីឧទ្ទិសថ្វាយព្រះឥសូរព្រះនរាយណ៍ព្រះព្រហ្មហើយក៏ជាមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលប្រមូលផ្ដុំនៅជំនឿសាសនាភាសាការគ្រប់គ្រងរដ្ឋសំណង់ស្ថាបត្យកម្មសិល្បៈនិងការរៀបចំប្រព័ន្ធធារាសាស្ត្រ ប្រាសាទប្រាង្គស្ថិតក្នុងបរិវេណប្រាសាទធំគឺជាប្រាសាទរាជដែលសាងសង់ឡើងជារាងពីរ៉ាមីតមាន7ថ្នាក់កម្ពស់35ម៉ែត្រមានតែមួយគត់នៅក្នុងភូមិភាគអាស៊ីអាគ្នេយ៍ដែលបានសាងសង់អំពីថ្មភក់ធំៗលើពីនេះរចនាបថក្បូរក្បាច់រចនានិងចម្លាក់បដិមាធំៗប្រកបដោយកាយវិការរស់រវើកដ៏ល្អវិចិត្រគឺជាស្នាដៃដែលកើតចេញពីការច្នៃប្រឌិតនិងការរួមបញ្ចូលគ្នារវាងសិល្បៈ និងសាសនាដែលមិនធ្លាប់មានក្នុងប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រខ្មែរហើយបានជះឥទ្ធិពលដល់សម័យកាលក្រោយៗទៀត
រ
ក្រោមការដឹកនាំប្រកបដោយបញ្ញាញាណនិងគតិបណ្ឌិតរបស់សម្ដេចអគ្គមហាសេនាបតីតេជោហ៊ុន